Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Grant Show. Do you often find that when you allocate time in your calendar for self-care that you quickly dismiss it and it falls by the wayside? Is your idea of self-care bubble baths, chocolates, manis, pedicures, shopping trips? Well, okay, I'm not going to begrudge you that officially. As life began to evolve for me, I became acutely aware that my needs were changing. Now, don't get me wrong, a spa retreat is quite welcome in my household, just for the record. However, when I speak to my clients that often struggle with giving themselves self-care, and this stress actually winds up causing this crazy shame and guilt loop that for people like the people I serve in my wellness practice that are predisposed to stress eating and emotional eating and binge eating, this is the last thing on earth that we want is to fall into this shame and guilt loop. And as I talk to more and more women, a common thread began to emerge in their stories. They felt guilty about self-care. They thought it meant that they had to stop the world for X amount of time. They thought it did mean a bubble bath or chocolate or a spa retreat. And I realize now after working with them and helping them break that shame, guilt cycle that I owed it to myself to share it with you guys as well. We need to change the definition of self-care. Number one, we need to learn how to give ourselves permission. Permission to step away. Permission for those of you in a relationship, and if you have kids like myself, permission to allow the people in our lives to handle the kids, as long as they're safe, as long as they're provided for, well cared for, but to give them permission to handle things in perhaps not the best way that we would normally prefer things be handled, but it's still good enough. Maybe we don't line up all the cups in a certain order. Maybe the house is not looking the way we would have preferred upon our return. And guess what? Everyone's still alive. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand how challenging that can be. Because for the women that I talk to in my digital wellness practice, they said it's just not worth the effort. It's not worth the effort to go out, have some form of self-care, and return to even more of a mess. It seems like a penance or something that they wanted done. It's not done. And they already verbalized and expressed how important that was. I get it. I get it. I do get it. But what I want to help you get even more, and it's something that I've helped women in my wellness practice cross the finish line on, as well as men too, is we need to understand that self-care is no longer optional. It is essential for mental health and your overall wellness. The brain cannot go and go and go and go like the Energizer Bunny on 24/7. It must have a moment to disengage. Research studies have shown that when we give the brain a moment to disengage from its regular life, a wonderful and beautiful and magical thing happens. We actually come back refreshed and more creative than when we started because we're no longer burning the candle, so to speak, at both ends. The second thing, we need to change the definition of what self-care looks like for us. And there is no right or wrong answer here, but maybe what worked for you before 20 years ago, it really, when you take a step back and look at it, it doesn't, so to speak, turn your crank now. Now, I love a spa visit. I'm not going to say and turn down a spa visit ever, but my love language, and perhaps yours as well, may have changed. Instead of a spa visit, I, for example, would prefer just sitting down and reading a book that I've had on my docket to read for the past month in complete peace and quiet or with minimal interruptions. That for me is invaluable. Something that I work with people in my wellness practice is helping them redefine, based on their values and belief systems, precisely what would be self-care for you, what would float your cork, what would help you feel like you move the proverbial ball down the field, where you feel fulfilled, where your brain can officially shut off. Once again, it is not all about bubble baths and chocolates and spa visits. What is your love language? Do you feel superb when you receive acts of service, for example? Then how can arrangements be made for you to be on the receiving end of an act of service? Is your love language, for example, physical acts of affection, then, or just physical touch? Then what can be done to fulfill that? Is it compliments? Then is there something that you're really good at that you just haven't had a chance to get around to lately? But when you do it, you're in your zone and you're good. I had a client one time that realized they love poetry slams and they loved going to comedy shows. And when they were up there actually trying for the open mic night, they received so many compliments and that filled their tank up. So you see, it's not a bubble bath. It's not chocolate, but it filled their tank because it tapped into and accessed their value and belief system. And it made it worthwhile to actually go out to fill their tank. It made them feel more alive. And isn't that what self-care is about? Tapping into the delightful opportunity to have that sliver of feeling more alive, even if it means just sitting in silence as you take a leisurely stroll, depending upon the weather and where you are, around your block. Just the opportunity to have an uninterrupted train of thought, for some people, that's golden. So I hope I've given you a few examples where self-care doesn't entail a spa trip. It doesn't entail baths. It doesn't entail chocolates. Once again, not saying for one moment that that is a naughty thing or something that's not good. I am just helping you crack open the possibilities on how to live your life more in sync with you and not what someone or something or some ad tells you what you should be seeking in order to fill your tank. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching this episode of the Dr. Grant Show. My name is Dr. Kirsten Grant, and we are building our wait list for workshop engagements as we come to various corporations near you. Feel free to reach out to us. Much love to you. Bye.